Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Good to be with you. Thanks for being with us. Redemption Thursday, which is going to serve as both a Redemption Thursday and a Libations Friday. Bye week, Tom and I are taking tomorrow off for a good reason. Also, it's bye week. I don't know how many more times I can hammer home. The situation is dire here at Florida State. Dire straits. How long can we talk about it? I need a respite for the weekend. And I'm going to take one. So today is serving as a dual show. We're back with you strong on Monday. That's how that's going to go. But we'll sit back and we'll take in these games all together and try to take a deep breath one day at a time. I keep getting asked questions from all over the great state of Florida and beyond. Florida State faithful. Hey, man, how bad is it? When will we get the news? Why haven't they acted? What are we going to do? It gets more and more desperate with each text. Eventually you get the all caps. You finally get the all caps and the person, just when you read the screen, is screaming at you. Help! 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 You're like, hey, man, I might have some more insight than somebody else. I might hear things from insiders over there or big boosters, but like I can't wave a wand because I host a sports talk show and want it to be different and make it different. I can't change the results on the field. I can't force the hand of Florida State's administration to fire Mike Norvell right now to satiate the appetite for that. I can't change the course of the season. Mike can, I suppose. I don't have any faith that he'll do it, but he's got a better shot at doing it, and he's also paid a lot more to do it than I am. So we'll see. Maybe the bye week, as he said yesterday, is just what we need. There's some John McKay to that, by the way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers first coach. When asked why he told everybody that he had a 5-year plan or a 4-year plan, that's what it was, a 4-year plan to get the Bucs turned around. And in year 4, they became the fastest team to ever make the NFC Championship game. He said, well, I had a 4-year contract. If I had had a 5-year contract, it would have been a 5-year plan. If I had had a 6-year contract, I would have told you, I had a 6-year plan. That's how this works. So, when it's the bye week and you've lost 4 straight games and you're getting questioned about it, you can say, well, I think the bye week is just what we needed because that's where you're at. What are you going to do? Or if it had been another loss this week, you would, or a game that was certainly going to be a loss, you're like, I think this contest is just what we need. Just a matchup that we need. It's a chance to respond. What are you going to do?
Well,
what are you going to do at this point?
Today's Thursday. We have a practice, and we need that practice. It's obviously something that we could benefit from. We look forward to practicing because that's what we have before us today.
And it's how you respond to that opportunity.
It'll be great to hear him say that in spring camp in 2026, too. I look forward to it. It's going to be great to hear how he decides to address the response that's necessary from the 2026 Noles. It'll be good for Florida State.
Well, let me tell you this. I will say on a serious note before we get to my picks, at least early in this hour as well, I will say that I think you're starting to see some of the, I guess, chipping away at the bigger story at play here than Mike Norvell. And, you're going to get a lot more information in the coming weeks and discussion about the finances and the situation Florida State finds themselves in, not just because people will report and talk about it locally, but what will happen is that the big outlets, the Ross Dellingers of the world at Yahoo and others, when Florida State doesn't act on what is an obvious situation where the coach is a dead man walking and, the program is in a bit of a disarray or a free fall, they'll start to be curious, more so than they already are, as to, why is that? Why aren't they acting? Why isn't, maybe we should start asking around a little bit here, start looking around a little bit here. Why is it they're not making a move? Because this doesn't feel like something that they can live with. This doesn't feel like something long-term that is tenable. This isn't something that you would, want to engage in. And even though the number is big, it's a big time program. And, we know how this works. Why don't they make a move? And if they don't, and they continue to not move, and they don't have any more comments about it, if more losses mount and that remains the case, then I think you'll see the big expose. You'll see that, they're in a bit of a conundrum over there financially. And there is this, and this, and then there's this, and there is people who are upset at this guy and that guy, and maybe the president's going to have to get involved, and, the president of the university, that is. So it feels like it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to get uglier before it's going to get better. It's going to get more toxic before it gets better. It's going to be, just buckle up, man, is what it feels like. Just buckle up.
Yeah, and it's a choice that they've made. As we said yesterday, they had a cost-benefit analysis. The benefit is to take the path that they're taking, and that costs so many people, in the interim. It's not just us, the fans. It's not just the players. It's not just the recruits. It's the coaching staff themselves. It's Mike every time he has to break them down after stretch and before they begin their drills, and after every practice is over and he's got to stand before them, and every time he's got to take the dais to explain what it is that's going to be different this time that Florida State takes the field against Wake Forest after a bye week, the bye week that we needed, the break that we needed in order to set the tone for the rest of the schedule. All of this excruciating existence for all parties, not named those in the athletic department, is what they decided that is necessary in order to do the next thing that they need to do, which is really unfortunate, because even if you could save a few $1 million on Mike Norvell's structured buyout over the course of 5-6 years through a negotiation, is that worth the cost of what you're about to put everybody through and the investment that they will make or not make after they get to live through the next 6 weeks altogether? You better hope that they put some kind of product on the field and they don't quit, because then you just made it even worse for no good reason. So we'll see.
Well, they've done a lot of betting on the future in the hopes that this works out. And, obviously when they went and got these assistant coaches and brought them in, these coordinators, they were betting that would, suffice, that would satiate what needed to be done, that they would win enough games, that this conundrum they now find themselves in wouldn't be something that they would have to address, at least not immediately. This was the bet. The bet was, all right, Mike, you've screwed this up historically. This is the kind of thing that we would have to move on from, but you do have a little bit of, you certainly have a little bit of goodwill that remains because of that undefeated season. So we'll go get you a couple guys and, just win enough games so we don't have to have the big conversation. And they bet on that, and they needed it, certainly, to play out. They got the win over Alabama, and I'm sure they felt like, okay, we're over the moon now. We're good. We got the win. This is going to work out. I don't know how good or bad we are, but I know we're good enough to beat Bama, so surely this isn't a team that's going to put together a 4-game losing streak. Surely this isn't a team that can't win an ACC game. Surely this isn't a team that would lose to Stanford and their backup quarterback. I mean, come on. We just beat Alabama. We're going to be good to go. And much to their horror and all of ours, it's happening again. It's happening again. And now every time the coach speaks, and this is not me making fun of him, this is just an observation, he sounds like he's on the cusp of tears every time he talks. Every time he talks, he feels like and looks like a man fighting back a nervous breakdown. And, that's no way to exist. That's no way to walk around these parts. That's no way to operate as a leader when you sound shaky, when you sound shaken to the core, when you sound as if you're searching, when you sound as if you lack confidence in the same way that the players do. That they're just empty words. They're just things that you say because you've heard them said before in situations like this, because you, like me, follow sports and you know what coaches say when they're up against it. You've heard all the phrases and phrasing, and so you just reiterate those things because if you had the answer, you would have already applied it. And he doesn't. So you're going to just hear, well, all I know how to do is work. And we're going to make it right. And I know long term we can get this turned around. And, and you're going to admit fault because how could you not? You just lost 10 games last year. Now you've lost 4 straight this year. You haven't won an ACC game since you were 42. You're now 44. I mean, what are you going to say? So you have to admit the fault, which I appreciate that he does. You don't get a ribbon for it, but you thanks for letting us know that what we know, that this is it. This ain't it. That this is not acceptable. It's just brutal. It is just a brutal set of circumstances. And every day that we exist with these circumstances and this situation being what it is a day in which Florida State fans are miserable and desperate and scared for the future of the program and worried. I mean, it's not too many times. It hasn't been in my career covering the team. There have been times I've been angry. There have been times I've been disappointed. There have been times that I've been frustrated, maybe even sad. There have been pockets of sadness where something bad happened to a good person, or, we had tragedy befell the program or something like that. I've been sad a few times doing this job. But I've never been worried, like really worried about the university, the school, the situation. I've never been worried like, oh, well, it's just a football coach. They'll fire him or we'll get a new one. Or, somebody else will figure out, that we need to move on. We'll bring a new guy in. He'll have a different mantra and we'll get this turned around. It's Florida State, for goodness sake. It's a program that almost recruits itself. It's in the backyard where all the talent is. It has enough cachet. I said for years and years and years, and it's been true consistently in the past. I wonder if it will be in the future. But in the past, I used to note, a good example was when Bob Stoops came into Oklahoma. At OU, it was a nightmare run in which, post Switzer, they had a series of coaches that failed miserably at Oklahoma. Blake failed, Howard Schnellenberger failed. They had all these guys that failed miserably, right? And people were asking, what in the world at Oklahoma? How is it that great program with all of their All-Americans and Heismans and national championships, how could they have fallen this far? And, the thought was, with all that tradition and all that money and all that success, it just takes the right guy to step in there and push the right buttons and get kids to see, and it'll quickly turn around. And it did. It did. Bob Stoops got in there and went, oh, you guys, you're living in the past. You're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. Let's just do this. We'll get people turned around. We'll get this thing won. Unfortunately, it was at our expense in the national championship that the boy wonder got it flipped just like that. And OU has been, for the most part, a really, really consistent and really, really good program ever since. There were a lot of examples of that. Alabama turned out to be a great example of that, more than once. Your problem is that you hired Shula as your coach. I mean, this is, what are we doing here? Or your problem is that, and you go through it. And then all of a sudden, voila, the great Nick Saban arrived, and really, even before that, Gene Stallings arrived. And Alabama was great again because they have that background. They have that history. They're invested in that way. The university cares. The community cares. Their graduates care. But they also have something in their favor that currently we don't, and it's what leads to my worry. And that is generation upon generation upon generation of graduates for the school that is really old, like Notre Dame and Michigan and Alabama and others, Oklahoma, aforementioned, where generational wealth is passed on and the tradition is passed on. And Florida State is a relatively young program in the big scheme of things. We have constantly and rightfully puffed out our chest regarding our accomplishments in the face of that youth, without that money that is generational, without fully endowed scholarships. Florida State has found a way over and over and over again. But now we find ourselves in what appears to be a money crisis with no generational wealth walking through that door to solve it. And to the extent that we are frozen, meaning the inability to act, I think we're going to learn more and more every day. And I know that they could, if they had to, get out from under all this, but they might end up signing a deal with the devil. And it never ends. You're always indebted once you go private equity. It never ends. You never get out from under that. Those folks, that situation, you don't get out from under. But you'd get out from under all of this. So you could do it. It's a question of whether or not they have to do it and will do it. And Tom, in that sense, oddly, the Wake Forest game is very important.
I suppose they could lose that game and say, well, the comprehensive assessment will continue and we will take a look. And remember, I told you, everybody, that it's going to be in December that we make this decision, or right after the Florida game is over that we make this decision about where the direction of the program is going. The longer that Mike Norvell, is employed, the more you have to at least entertain the possibility that he will remain employed at Florida State. I know there's no possible way it could be. If we've gotten this far, what's a little more? And if we get a little bit farther, then what's a little more? That's my problem with this whole situation. It's outrageous. We all know this is a farce. We all know it. He should never have been at the dais as Florida State's head coach ever again after that post-game press conference on Saturday. And many of you would have said he never should have been at the dais for the Stanford game because he shouldn't have been coaching on the sideline at Stanford. Fair. But we know what that Stanford game was for any coach in any era, in any program. It was the sign that it's done. It's overly done. You can't possibly lose that game without it being done. And there's no action. I don't care what the cost-benefit analysis is. You've got to do better in messaging. You've got to do better in messaging if we're going to have to sit tight here than we rally around him until season's end and we'll do everything in our power. Come on, man. That's like Mike Norvell himself saying nobody cares more about what happens at Florida State than I do. Both of those things are totally empty rhetoric. We need leadership. There's no god dog leadership. That's what I can't stand. The farther we get away from this, even if you got to tell us that we have a bitter pill that we must swallow, tell us that we have a bitter pill that we must swallow.
Well, I would say that after the bye week, when you get back on the field, if it's met with yet another bitter, disappointing ACC loss, yet another home ACC loss to the likes of Wake Forest, whom 99 out of 100 times you should beat, given your advantages over Wake Forest. If that were to happen, I think you're stuck in a position again to have that very real conversation. Like you'd have to get beyond whatever that missive, that nonsense missive was of a release. Because at that point, the voices grow louder. The situation gets uglier and uglier with each passing loss. Again, this gets back to time and again. You're right about the lack of leadership currently and perhaps the lack of money currently that we're discussing as well. I would just say that when losses happen, they happen for a reason. You guys hear me say this all the time, and they elicit emotion. That does never remain stagnant. That's not like at some point addressing that situation again is going to happen before the end of the year. Like if you lose to Wake at home, and God forbid if you lose to Wake at home and it's like, like it's been historically, Wake has been at the other end of one of these moments, right? Where we were like, really? We're going to lose 30-0 to Wake? Really? Okay. Like that kind of a situation. So what if you're sitting there on Saturday, a week from this Saturday, and it's 28-7 Wake in the fourth quarter? I mean, people will not remain quiet any longer at that point. It'll be hideous.
People won't remain quiet in warm-ups of that game next. That is what you have guaranteed is going to happen. To the extent that it's going to be ugly, that's up to how much booze people drink before the game and what happens on the field for the 60 minutes. But it's going to be an ugly scene. You've guaranteed that. That's the choice you've made. I understand what public relations is. I get it. We have fun with it all the time with JCS PR firm. I think we're actually pretty good at it if we had to be in a different line of work. But this idea that the commitment to our football program is unwavering. That's the first sentence, which is a throwaway sentence. That already is insulting. If it was,
you would have already made a move. Yeah.
You wouldn't let this stand. It's just tone deaf doesn't even do any justice to this.
Because there's no good. Listen, if short of firing him, there is no statement you could make that would show that the first part of that release is true. So unwavering commitment would have you firing him. So from that point forward, there's nothing you can say that's going to make that true.
It is clear by the statement itself, though. Like, there's some element to this that we talked about yesterday, which is, why are you going to watch a press conference if you're just going to get mad about it? Like, you could apply that here a little bit. However, this wasn't a scheduled press conference. You didn't have to release this language. And to me, what it signals is that there was an idea within the structure of the leadership that said, it'll calm down after a couple of days. FU, it'll calm down after a couple of days. Like, oh, they'll rabble rouse and then it'll settle down and we'll be able to do what we need to do. What a miscalculation. What a fundamental miscalculation of how pissed off we all are. Like, how do you not read that? How do you not understand that before you release the statement?
They're going to get angrier. Everybody involved is going to get angrier. It's going to continue to the temperature is going to continue to rise. If they were hoping for some relief with the bye week, I don't think they're going to get it.
And I'm telling you, if you're over leveraged and all that stuff, it is still better for Florida State University and this athletic department and this program to pay him a buyout and not let him coach and replace him with no one than it is to let him continue to be the head coach. You're going to lose the recruiting class anyway. So don't give me, the recruiting class would fall. It's going to fall apart anyway. This non-action is going to destroy it. If you think that you're going to salvage the recruiting class by keeping Mike Norvell in this limbo, that might be the second dumbest thing that you've done outside of releasing the statement. That's not logic that's going to work. Those kids are not stupid. Moreover, they've got better representation than they've ever had in the history of the sport because of NIL and because of rev share contracts. They have to have real people having real conversations with them, not mom, dad, or the coach.
Yeah, there is something good about that, though, which is no matter what kind of a mess you are financially, behind the scenes, over leveraged, all those things, we know what the rev share number is, and that's required. You're going to have that money. You're going to have that total. We know the deal that they worked out with the ACC is real. Florida State's ratings are still very good. That's why we get put on in prime time even when we lose games. They're still going to get that extra, whatever it is, $15 million that they weren't going to get before. So they're going to have more money than most. More money than most. Not the kind of money that Georgia or Ohio State has, but they're going to have the money that they need to pay the players.
Right.
The players. That's what you better have that, because any coach that comes in, name or no name, and at this point it's probably going to be a no name, they need to know that they got the money to pay the players. You got to pay the players. We got to make sure we can pay the players. You're not getting some guy for $13 million a year to come coach you right now. You're too big a mess. And frankly, you don't need that expenditure. Go get a $3 million a year guy who's really good with the X's and O's and has shown organizationally he's got a plan and has a clue, and pay the players and go compete. Go compete. Yeah. You're going to be able to do that. In that sense, you might be able to keep some guys that you think currently we're going to lose.
Yeah, you could. Well, the whole thing is, I would rather elevate one of the two coordinators ducking from the vegetables being thrown my way than I would allow this guy next year. If you're telling me that those are the only two options on the table, you got to elevate one of the coordinators or one of the assistant coaches to the head position. And then, as you're saying, dial it up in the rev share department, because unfortunately also this limbo means that your NIL game gets completely eviscerated. So all you have is rev share with some nominal NIL, because you can't make a decision. So that's also the hard part here. You're in maintenance mode rather than acquisition mode. Last year, we were able to be in acquisition mode even at 2-10, which was wild and amazing to go grab and retain as many of the players as they did to move up 30 spots in the recruiting rankings after 2-10. Pretty impressive, actually, when you think about it and reflect on that. They can't do that again. I don't think the NIL will be there in that regard. So it's just, The rev share is going to be there, and you're also going to get your TV ratings next year too. You get bailed out because that schedule is awesome.
Yes, it is.
Read difficult, but because the schedule is awesome, you're going to have a lot of high-profile television games. Notre Dame and Clemson and Miami and Florida and Alabama, and even SMU is probably going to get some extra eyeballs because you have the Dallas market on it as well. So you've got half your schedule is automatically going to be highly viewed. And I might have missed one in there too. But you're going to keep them? Like, this is the farther we get away from this, like, are you really going to do this? Because I can't believe that we're at Thursday, October the 23rd, and he's still a head coach. Are you going to keep him? Are you just trying to quell everybody down so that you can deliver the real bad news in 5 weeks that he's coming back for another year? I'm starting to wonder.
Don't you think, and we have to go to break and bring in Lee Sterling next for his picks, and I got to give you my picks. Don't you think there has to be a bare minimum of success for them to even attempt that? Like, don't you think they have to be bowl eligible?
Well, I would say, don't you think that there's a bare minimum of failure that would cause them to act and fire Mike Norvell? Because
understanding that, but moving forward, don't you think that in order to try to pull off this scam of a situation that they're trying to pull off with keeping him, that he has to win a game or two? Like, they can't lose out and then with a straight face do this. They have to win a couple of games.
There's no single loss that they could register between now and the end of the season worse than the Stanford loss. If they lose to Wake, 30-0, I still don't think that's as bad as losing to Stanford's backups 20-13.
Maybe not in terms of the lack of talent that you lost to out there, but I would say a home game, a homecoming game, and with the stadium raining booze down upon them is a much worse game to lose visually. The national heat's coming when that happens. Nobody even saw our Stanford game.
You know, some people, Jeff, call death a homecoming. It means we're going home. Back to the stars.
Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, joins us next. Had to mix it up. We're all getting it into today, I should say, on a Redemption Thursday instead of a Libations Friday. But we wouldn't let the week end, at least not on the JCS, without having my man Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, join us, because we got to go over some games, damn it. Those games never stop, regardless of the schedules that shift here on the radio or on video. So we welcome him in now. Lee, how are you, brother? You doing all right?
I'm good. Actually, a tough week for me. My mom, unfortunately, last Wednesday night was diagnosed with cancer. So great life she's lived. She's 87, battled Parkinson's for 31 years. So unfortunately, cancer, she wouldn't let Parkinson's beat her. Most people last, 5, 10, 15 years. So just the toughest thing I ever had to do. Had to give her the news last Wednesday night. So it was rough.
I'm sorry to hear that, Lee. Obviously, that's brutal, and I wish you nothing but the best. But that's tough. That's no easy pivot here, my friend. But I'll try to do it right off the bat. Your games, you're running hot right now. Let's keep it rolling. Pitt -6.5 against NC State. It actually intrigues me. I like this game. I don't know which way to fall on this game. What say you?
Well, normally you'd probably look at NC State taking the points. They have won and covered the last 3, but they played. But the last game was 2020, so pretty inconsequential here. They are off of a bye, NC State, so they should be fresh, but they can't stop anyone. I mean, they through the air, their defense 121st out of 136 teams. So you want to spring the upset, you got to stop a young quarterback, this kid Henschel, who is really good, and he shook it off in the last game. Interception, and just keeps moving on here. So Pittsburgh gives the lead against the run, and Wolfpack are going to be one-dimensional again. I mean, their quarterback, they put mid-20s on the board against a lot of teams, but their defense, they don't have any players on the run defense, linebacker position, or cornerback position that can make plays. I like Pitt here at home, 34-24.
I think by the end of the year, and it's not going to make Florida State fans feel any better because they lose every week, but Pitt's not a bad team.
No.
The team that came into Doak is actually, when they left that field, I remember thinking, and Tom and I have talked about it on the air, they're a pretty good team now that they found a quarterback.
Right, and the turnovers did them in, and turns out now their loss to Louisville isn't a bad loss.
Right.
So They
Right.
found the right guy. Reed is also pretty healthy again at running back. And when they have those two guys, Reed starting and a couple guys filling in, different roles, they are a better team.
Oklahoma, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty good run here for Oklahoma, just overall, considering the pressure Brent Venables was under coming into this season. They're not a great team. They're a good team. They're giving 4.5 to Ole Miss coming off the disappointing loss to Georgia. Thoughts?
I thought Ole Miss's defense got exposed. I mean, they were on the field for 80 plays, didn't stop anyone second half. In fact, Georgia scored on every single possession, a touchdown or a field goal. Now they got to go on the road, and you go on the road to Oklahoma, tough place. I think Oklahoma has the best defense in the conference. And John Mateer, 2 more weeks after the surgery, you saw he looked better last week.
Yeah.
At home, best defense here between the two teams, best quarterback. I'll take Oklahoma, 30-23.
Two programs seemingly going in different directions. Elko's doing a great job at Texas A&M. They're giving 2.5 to an LSU team, but the whispers have begun that Brian Kelly may not make it through after this year. We shall see. Just a 2.5-point spread. I get it. Which side you on?
So last year's game, halftime, LSU's looking good, and then all of a sudden, A&M's like, well, we'll insert Marcel Reed. And what does he do? Led him to 3 touchdowns in the second half. They outscored LSU 31-6 on way to that 38-23 win. And kid's good. And now LSU's defense, which they couldn't get off the field last week. In fact, their defense was on the field for over 37 of the 60 minutes. Diego Pavia is good. I just think that Marcel Reed's more talented. I mean, he's bigger, stronger, faster, has a better arm, and has 2 better receivers. So A&M has not fared well. LSU, they have not won or covered the last 4 times they've traveled to Death Valley. But this is a team outside of probably Ohio State, probably the most complete team right now in college football. The heat is on Brian Kelly. He was never a good fit for this program. And the reality here is LSU just isn't that good. A&M finally breaks through. A&M's going to lose a game somewhere, but not going to be this week. I like the Aggies here, 31-20.
You and me both, buddy.
Yep.
Packers and the Steelers. I love this game for obvious reasons, and it's also a cool uniform, iconoclast battle. Like if you're old like we are, Lee, you can, there's certain uniform clashes where you're like, yes, that's perfect. And this was
the Packers are wearing the old throwbacks with the stripes.
Are they?
No, I'm sorry. The Steelers are. The Steelers are.
The Steelers
don't do
that.
are.
Yeah, the Steelers should never do that. They don't.
That ruins it. Yeah, the Packers and the Steelers throwbacks are horrible.
Horrible. The 2 worst in the game.
Yeah.
Well, Packers Steelers. They're going to play Packers by 3.
Yep. Yeah, and it one of the biggest mysteries is why Pittsburgh's defense isn't any better.
No, at all.
I can't understand it here. So here's the thing with the Packers: their receivers get no separation. They have a bunch of 2s. You need a 1. You need a guy that you need to be like you guys, Florida State. Who do you go to? Deuce. When you need a big play, he comes up with it. They don't have that guy. Their offensive line is okay. Love looks okay, not great. He's kind of leveled off his play, and their defense, their cornerbacks are awful.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't cover well, they hold or interfere. It's a bad combination here. I'm going to go with the home team. I think Green Bay just there's something wrong. They once they made that acquisition of Parsons, everyone thought they're in. Just hasn't happened here. I like Pittsburgh at home here, 27-20.
Bucks are, I kind of expected that loss. This is a weird place for this game. I don't like the feel of this, Lee. I know the Saints are terrible, but the Bucks coming off of losing Evans for the year, they're still not completely healthy. Emeka's a great player, but he's dealing with a hamstring. I'm a little worried with the injuries and the spot and the short rest. I just get nervous about this game. Am I wrong to be nervous? The Bucks giving 4.5 against the Saints?
This is probably the toughest game I had to handicap on the NFL board.
Yeah.
So you got to give Kellen Moore a lot of credit here. I mean, what he's done with Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler was a turnover machine last year, just one interception this year. So it just shows you what a good coach can do. And not that he's a great talent, he's playing within himself. Problem now is they have no rushing attack. They got to start from scratch. Lost their center, Eric McCoy, Kendra Miller, and also Alvin Kamara gone for the year. I like Tampa Bay, though, off of a loss here, even though it's a short week where they were dominated. Good teams usually respond. So it's a nice transition phase for New Orleans. I think they've done a good job. 4 home games, 3 one-score losses at home, and the win against the Giants where the Giants turned it over 4 straight possessions. I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to do it. I think he wills his team to a win here, 24-17, but not going to be pretty here. You can probably miss a quarter, and you may not miss a whole lot of action.
Yeah, I'm going to be sweating this one. Your game of the week is another SEC battle here, Arkansas and Auburn. How can folks get it?
Yep. Just call 800-400-9741. First 5 callers, we'll give them Arkansas and Auburn on me. And what a run it's been in the NFL. How about this? Last 5 weeks in the NFL on our 5 selections.
Have you gone 5-0 all 5?
Do what?
Did you go 5-0 all 5?
No, I let everyone down. 4-1 last week. So we've gone 5-0, 5-0, 5-0, 4-1, and 4-1. So I've leveled off. Only 23-2 the last 5 weeks. So anyone wants to hop on board, we call it Lee's NFL Sunday Golden Ticket. These are games only on Sunday. You get 5 games every Sunday. These are the games that I personally bet. 23-2 run. No one in the country can touch that. It's just $197 for 4 weeks of games. One place, no one hotter in the world, ParamountSports.com.
That's insane. 23-2. I hope you're riding this and enjoying it, buddy, because you know that can't last. I'm not trying not to sell you. I love you, brother, but that's crazy to be 23-2. Yeah. Be well, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, Jeff. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports. He's gone crazy in the NFL. 23-2 over the last 25 picks against the number. And I've been on a roll in the NFL, but not like that at all. That is a big number, an impressive number. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. All right, thanks to Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports. His picks with Pitt and NC State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and LSU. Packers, Steelers, Bucks, Saints. Hey, you believe in that Bucks minus 4.5 against the Saints, Tommy? Or are you with me with consternation?
There's consternation there for sure. It's a tough spot on the schedule. I think it relates to Baker's health. That's my number one concern there. He missed so many wide open throws that I don't think that's Baker just regressing back to the player he was before this MVP start to the season.
Correct.
There looks to be something hindering him from executing the mechanics that he has so routinely executed so far this season. So if you could promise me, actually sound a little bit like Lee there when I did my transition. So if you could promise me that Baker's healthy, no problem, 4.5. But if he's banged up, we got potential problems here.
So it is a concern, and he's been a little banged up much of this season. He's found a way to overcome it. Whatever this last thing was something that affected his mechanics, and that is problematic.
Here's a question for you. It's been a wonderful connection with the rookie, but how many yards and how many touchdowns have been left on the field by Baker not being able to hit a wide open Emeka Egbuka?
Yeah, and if Egbuka wasn't such a perfect teammate and has been since the day he signed at Ohio State to now, you would hear the prima donna receiver screaming at the top of his lungs about these inefficiencies of his starting quarterback, the way you do throughout the league when veterans struggle like this with veteran receivers who are not afraid to speak out or aren't as good as teammates and are selfish. Yeah, so there's that.
And it's good restraint on his part. I'm not walking back on Baker. Baker's the guy. But he was caught on the sideline earlier in the season saying, don't one hand any throws that go your way from me.
Yeah, but he's busting balls there. I don't think that was, yeah.
He is, but there's also always a little bit of truth in a dig like that where Emeka could be, hey, I'm not Yao Ming. So let's keep the ball in my own.
This radius here, please. Right. Yeah, I'm going to need that.
It's a considerable radius, but I'm not 7'6", so let's do a little bit better, Bake.
All right, throw them up on the board. I haven't done them yet. We just by the nature of the way the show started. Here we go. Pay Me Martha Redemption Thursday wagers are before you, and a T Lizzie party favor to boot. How about them apples. Kansas -2.5 against Kansas State. Anything under 3, I was going to jump on it. That number's moved around. Shop around, kids. Virginia -10.5 against North Carolina. Normally, I wouldn't do this, but North Carolina is just so sorry. And I know they had a chance to beat Cal last week and fell short in a most spectacular way. Did we even talk about that? Did you see that when it happened?
Not live. I saw it the next day, and I saw the caption on the Twitter post I saw was not like this, North Carolina. I said, ooh, I better watch this video.
I couldn't believe it. I had fallen asleep, woke back up, saw Carolina was driving, and went, oh, hold on a second. Sat straight up to watch it. And when he's walking into the end zone, I'm like, because the guy who causes the fumble before he crosses the goal line, the Carolina receiver before he crosses the goal line, is not even on the screen when he's on the 2-yard line or 3-yard line. You're like, oh, he's going to walk in. All of a sudden, it's a blur. This is why you never quit on a play, kids. It's why you never quit on a play, kids. That dude comes flying in like, oh, no, you ain't just walking in the end zone on me. Pat, and the ball is out, and there it is. I cracked up laughing. I went, oh. And then there's a desperate crawl by the receiver. He's like, I just can't get there. That's a toughie. I don't think North Carolina bounces back from that is my point. I'll go ahead and lay the 10.5. Arkansas -1 point against Auburn. They're still battling at Arkansas, man. They hung in there and fought their ass off against Texas A&M, and they don't have the right to compete with Texas A&M with that dearth of talent at Arkansas, but they did, and I don't know what Auburn's got to play for at this point. This seems like a foregone conclusion with them. Give me Arkansas -1.5 points. Give me Pitt, who's a pretty functional team now that they have a quarterback. NC State can't get stops. I agree with Lee Sterling on this pick. Alabama -12.5 against South Carolina. Bama's rolling. We got them at the right time. Thank goodness we got them when we did. We would not beat them now. Not only would we not beat them now, we'd lose by 40 to them now. Such is life. It's a really, really weird thing. -12.5. South Carolina is in trouble. Iowa -8.5 against Minnesota. I think that's an Iowa special at home. Texas A&M -2.5 at LSU. I think they're playing out the string for old BK. Playing out the string right now, and I'm going to count on, despite what normally is an incredible atmosphere, I'm going to count on a failure of locker room culture to go in favor of Texas A&M, which has good culture and a really good coach. And maybe they finally kick down the door at LSU. I'll lay the 2.5. I took BYU on the money line because it was more lucrative to do so. I think they'll win the game against Ohio State. They're catching 2.5 if you want to go that route. But for me, I think they win. I'll take them money line +124. Same goes for Mizzou in that Vandy game, which is one of my favorite games of the weekend. It's worth watching. I took Mizzou to win this game. Last second field goal. Think it's very close. I've got them pulling off the mild upset. You can get them +120 on the money line. And then finally, Michigan State's terrible. Michigan's okay. Good quarterback. Michigan State's defense is terrible. Give me Michigan -13.5. And then there is the T. Lizzie party favor. He thinks, folks, that UCLA is a live dog. A live dog at +25.5 against Indiana. How about them apples?
I think that this season's so wild that could be a halftime score that you go, whoa, 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 what do we have here? I don't think it's going to be a result, but UCLA has the ignorance that is necessary in this situation to make that a compelling game at noon. I will say, as we're recording this right now, a gargantuan size crash in one of the other rooms in my place. I'm going to make sure that my animal is not dead. So
gargantuan.
I don't understand what that possibly could be, but I want to make sure that we don't have a deceased being on my hands. So, yeah.
I'll finish out the segment for you. It hit end. Oh, man. Anyhow, I kind of like your party favor there, Tom. I too will jump on board with a little pizza money for the UCLA pick at +25.5. Might even sprinkle it into a parlay or two just to have some fun with it. Speaking of which, I will have plenty of those for the NFL. Been rolling with the prop plays. Prop plays are always weird. You kind of get the up and down result with prop plays. You have the week where you miss by a half yard or one guy fails you, as it did in that Pittsburgh game a while back. Other weeks, it's easy breezy, rocking chair, have some fun with it. you got your totals early on. It's 3 guys needing 2 catches or more, and it happens for you. I would note that we do get the Minnesota LA Chargers game tonight, and I find something unique here, and that is they're still going with Wentz, and he hasn't played that well. And I would also say that if I saw this correctly, I don't even think the rookie or second-year guy is a backup tonight. Like, how banged up is he? That's a weird situation in Minnesota, and I wonder if they're not kind of hiding him at this point. Seems a little odd, but we do get Thursday night football, and then you get Thursday night college football to boot. But I couldn't find nothing was able to tickle the fancy and make me move on from here. Hour 2, my mom will join us for picks. I think by virtue of the fact that I did pick against our beloved Buccaneers, that I gained a game there. I did pick against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I did gain a game there, so it's worked out. Oh, we're gonna get resolution before I sign off for the hour. Everything okay? The animal not deceased? Anything earth-shattering?
He didn't shatter something, but he knocked something massive to the ground. He's going to be an interesting one in the mornings. He's going to be an interesting one.
I think it's fantastic you have to deal with that. It's like a little kid.
It's kind of like that, yes. He's a sweetheart in the afternoons and the evenings, though.
Was it a piece of art?
No, it was actually a HEPA filter, but it's pretty heavy, and he knocked it off the counter, and it just yeah.
So nothing on the counters, sir. Nothing on the counters for this guy, because he's going to be a slapper. He's going to go slap things off of counters. That's how he's going to roll.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Up next, stay with. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, Redemption Thursday rolls on, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting local. Tallahassee's only locally owned and operated radio station is 93.3 FM. I think Crenshaw's house is on warchant.com right now. I don't always reference it, but of course it is a feature.
Henshaw.
I said Henshaw.
You said Crenshaw, like the old bowling lanes.
I didn't mean to. I was speaking quickly. Henshaw's house is up on warchant.com. And the only thing I would say is right out the gates, there is a question about, motivation and what has to happen and where we're at. At one point, he says they worry that the players, Ira asked the question, they worry that the players aren't responding to Norvell anymore. And he said, well, to me, the easiest guy to coach in pro football is a guy in his contract year. And that's what these guys are, by the way. This is pro football disguised as college football, but this is pro football. Every one of these players is a free agent at the end of the year, especially if there's a coaching change. So if I were in their agents, I'd be all over my players saying, quote, look, I'm going to be talking to these coaches at Florida State and coaches at other schools about your contract. So if you want more money, you'd better play like crazy these last 5 games. Play as hard as you possibly can, as physical as you possibly can. You better be able to make plays in critical situations to help this team win. He's not wrong on that, by the way. That is the lone hope you have if you do try to boil this down. And you might say to yourself, as Tom and I did last hour, to what end? Got it. But they are going to play these games, and I'd rather win them than lose them. It won't change the way I feel about the need for change. It won't change the way I feel that they should have fired Mike already. It won't change a lot of the things that are negative right now hovering over this program. But they are going to play the games. And we are going to cover the games. We are going to watch the games. We are going to see these games play out. I do think it's true that in this era of pro football, if you will, you can have a situation where you're able to appeal to the old adage of don't put bad film out there. Don't put bad film out there no matter how dumpster fiery this is. People are going to look at that and decide to make a play on you or not. And you need to be playing at your highest level for me to be able to shop you if that's indeed what you want. And or if you want to stay for the next guy, in order for that deal to remain intact and or to make more, you have to play well. You can incentivize some of these deals in that way, even through conversation about what's possible. The bad side of what's happening right now, though, and the other side of this is that this particular year, this first year, all of that money was front loaded for a lot of these guys. And you're seeing it in certain places, not just Florida State, where when the goals are off the table and the guys have already been paid, there becomes this sort of, well, I ain't out here trying to get hurt, man. I got my money. We're good. I'm leaving either way. People will recognize what this was for what it was. I mean, after all, there was terrible film on a certain defensive end that played here last year, and he ended up at LSU, and I'm sure it wasn't for nothing. So, that's how much damage does it actually do can be debated.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree that film is already there, and people understand the circumstances of where Florida State is, and coaches will always give at other universities guys more shots to maximize their potential because they see the opportunity. The coach does about how can I make my roster better. Sure, they don't want a kid who quits on a team, but I mean they'll take a chance on the talent, and that's the tough thing here. Henshaw has been excellent as somebody who provides calm or great perspective when people get a little bit on the emotional side. And I know that he's working to do that here. It's always an insightful feature from a perspective that 99% of us will never have, which is the perspective of a coach. But the thing I would challenge back here, he has a quote later in the column in which he says, so as fans, I believe we have to take some of our own personal feelings and set them aside and say, okay, what is best for the team? I need to do what's best for Florida State University. And he's speaking to the fact that we need not have a toxic atmosphere. That is a totally unfair ask of the fan base. That is incorrect. It shouldn't be on the fans to have to police themselves in a situation as untenable as this. And you don't need 12 games out of Mike Norvell on this season to understand what this is because you had 5 years before it. And so to say that, well, I hope the fans put it together here and make sure that we're trying to impress recruits and show them that we are not a toxic place, this is an unfair ask. That's totally unfair. And again, I value his perspective. I think it's an excellent feature for Warchant, but it won't be the fans' fault that recruits don't come here. That should not be a burden placed upon the folks that walk into the stands next Saturday. And unfortunately, it's what they're being asked to do. And that's stupid and it sucks.
Well, I would say that it depends on the level we're talking about. Like, I never think it's outside the fans' purview to not boo. Like, if you want to boo. Boo. Especially now that players are paid, by the way. These aren't college kids that are going to school the way that we used to view them. We used to protect them. There used to be a shield. You say, well, I mean, he's an 18-year-old kid going to school. He's not a professional football player. He's still an amateur. You don't want to boo amateurs. That's just not what you do. That's what people would say. And I would always argue back then when the game was changing, well, they're booing the $1 million a year coach or the $2 million a year coach and the $700,000 assistant coach. That's who they're booing. They're not booing the player. Yeah, but the players don't. Yeah, okay, we can have this debate, but that's who they're booing. Now you can boo the fans. I mean, you can boo the fans too, but you can boo the players. They are being paid, in many cases, handsomely. In some cases, millions. So you can absolutely boo them. And also, booing is not vitriolic.
Correct.
Booing is just part of a fan or a game experience. It happens every game you go to. They'll boo an official. They'll boo a call. They'll boo a play. They'll boo whatever. They'll boo the opposing team when they take the field. It's all part of going to a sporting event, a professional sporting event. That is for sure. So I got no problem with that. It's when the fans cross the line and start getting personal and say hateful things and racist things in some cases, which is really the extreme. And obviously, there's no place for any of that.
Of course not. And I'm speaking specifically about those things like booing, like when the head coach is announced or they have their first 3 and out or they don't catch a punt or whatever. Like these little, it's going to rain down, man, unless they start off fast. And if they do, then you could quell a little bit of that. And so it'll only be a pregame problem, but it's going to be a problem. And we all understand that when you take a swath of 50,000 people, however many are going to be there, let's call it 50 for now, with all day a 7:30 kickoff.
That's the toughie, Tom. We haven't talked about this enough. The fact that of course it's a 7:30 kickoff. Are you kidding me? Really? Well, it does again speak to some Florida State greatness, right? I mean, put them on in prime time. I know it's the ACC network, but still, I mean, 7:30. This screams, please make this a noon game.
Right.
Wherein
100%.
also ran. So is Wake. Put us on at 11 a.m. on the CW, please.
Well, it's when we're good, it's compelling. When we suck, it's compelling. These are the
correct.
two sides of the coin. This is why the Cowboys and the Jets have gotten so much coverage over the years. And it's not because the Jets have a winning tradition. It's because they're the New York media market and people love to watch the train wreck. And I think that's partially why you're not a noon kick for this game in a couple of weeks. And that's the nature of the beast. If you want the TV ratings dollars when we're good, then you have to be able to put up with this when we're bad. But it's just, this would not be a toxic setting if you had an interim coach. If Odell Higgins was on the sidelines, people would be searching for that healing moment that he's provided us twice in his career at Florida State. Instead, this is gasoline and a match, and the match is being and you're being asked to, like, don't drop the match. It's like, come on, man, this is an unfair ask for human nature. I hope that people don't act out, but let's be honest here. They're going to act out, and this is going to be a problem. And this is part of the math you do when you decide to not make a move on Mike Norvell, is you're willing to accept that as a leader and an administrator. Well, it is going to be ugly, and there's nothing I can do about it, is the attitude that you have displayed to allow for Mike to coach another game. And that's it shouldn't be the fans' fault if something like that happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, your point about that is well taken, and I agree with you. I do wonder the extent. One thing I hate is when we are put in a bad light for something that is reasonable. I remember going back to the end of Bobby Bowden's time, the talking heads that would spend hours a week, talking about the spoiled fans at Florida State and how ridiculous it was that they would want to move off of Bobby Bowden, the legend that is Bobby Bowden. And while there were people within the fan base who shared that sentiment of the talking heads, I never thought it was unreasonable to suggest that losing 6 games in a season or 5 or 4 games in a season when you have a lot of talent is not up to the standard that Bobby Bowden helped build, in fact, was the architect of. So you don't get to tear it down just because you built it up, was always my argument, that we need to move on. And there are frustrated fans who are spending good money this is not an easy place to get to. And those fans are not bad fans or spoiled fans if they're frustrated by the losing. They're not. They expect more. They spend a ton of money to get more. They want more. This coach is making, in this case, a ton of money, an unreasonable amount of money, quite frankly. And they are frustrated that the results don't match the salary, don't match the commitment, the investment. And they're not bad fans because they boo that. They're not bad fans because they find this to be unacceptable and they're voicing their concerns on social media or anywhere else. But that's what's going to happen, because what's going to happen now is that this is going to turn ugly, like you said, for every week that goes by that guy is still allowed to coach. And anytime they add to the ledger of losses that they've already accumulated over the last 2 years, which is freaking 15. Anyhow, when you do that, you're just adding fuel to the fire. You're just compounding the problem, because this is the do something desperation that you feel in the fans, in the stands, around the parking lots, in the tailgates. We are begging you, do something. This cannot stand, man. You have left us in an unbelievably poor position, and the look of this gets worse by the day. Why aren't we serious? Why aren't we serious about football at Florida State anymore? That's what we were built on. Why are we not a serious program? Do something is what they're crying out. And that usually manifests itself in more than just do something. It turns into F-bombs. It turns into the desperation that I'm speaking of. And that never is a good look. And cameras catch it, and they'll catch it out of context. They'll catch a clip here. They'll mash all that together. My God, look what's happening at Florida State. These people are unhinged. Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah.
This is where it's going.
And it was deemed that all of this is an acceptable risk to take.
Well,
so there you are.
Well, okay, so you said it yesterday when we were talking about it, and many people have commented on this. They're saying, why is that? There's no reasonable person that thinks that this is an acceptable risk. They're saying to you, not that it's acceptable, just that they can't do anything. They can't do anything about it. They can't afford to do anything about it. They don't have when you fire him, you have to pay him, and they don't have the money, is what they're telling you. It's what a lot of people believe. A lot of people believe that that's what they're saying, because nobody with a straight face would look you in the eye and say, It's reasonable for you to just have to wear this. Nobody would say that over there. They can't believe that that's true. They just can't do anything about it. Is what seemingly what appears to be the case anyhow.
What can they magically do in December that they can't do now would be my question as it relates to Mike Norvell. And we're not going to have a concrete answer because they don't want to offer up that answer. So that's frustrating. But that's the whole thing here is why. Is because you could look at this extremely simplistic. If you know for a fact in that building that Mike Norvell is not going to coach next year, then why is he still coaching now? So flip it the other way. Is there a shot that he's coaching here next year? Well, is that why you haven't made the move yet? Because you have to keep that option open that he might coach here next year? Well, I think that's a reasonable thing to at least entertain.
Certainly that was suggested in the chat yesterday on the show. And
as the week goes on, absent other alternatives, right? Absent other explanations.
As the week goes on, I am willing to kind of come off of my stance that there's no way, no how that he's here. I don't love it. I hate it. And I don't like saying it out loud, but I think where I would lend credence to something we talked about earlier in the week that I may have dismissed earlier is this idea that they're just hoping he wins a few games so they don't have to fire him, even though we would say you're not a serious program. If he's back next year, you can't, who are we kidding here? Right. I will concede that they may be operating under this idea that if he can get bowl eligible, we can sell that they were 2-10 and now they go to a bowl. We can sell that it was always going to be a multi-year plan with the new coordinators to get their own guys in here, that the roster is being shifted to resemble, the right kind of player for this defense and this offense. And we couldn't do that overnight. And so you needed to we've always known that you've had to allow for a couple of seasons to let this play out before making any more serious decisions. Like they will try to sell that. But in order to sell that, and even if you refute it and hate it and think it's wrong, it's wrong-minded, it's all fine. But for them to be able to do it, he's got to win 6 games. They got to go to a bowl. They can't be sub 500 2 years in a row, and then you're pitching that everything's okay here. Like you gotta be able to hide behind the fact that you went to a postseason bowl.
You can't sell that. Well, you can think you can sell it, but you can say the words if you're Michael Alford and if you're the boosters, you can say those words, but you ain't selling jack, man. There's that is not a pitch. That only serves to enrage people. I wonder and I hope that they are not continually underestimating the fury that this fan base feels if that is the path that they think that they're going to be able to walk. I hope that they look at the trial balloon of the statement that was released on Monday and realize that people might have the tickets purchased. They're not coming. They'll sell them to Notre Dame fans. They'll sell them to Clemson. They'll sell them to Florida.
Next year. Yeah.
They'll sell them to SMU. And we'll look like it's the Chargers home games out west in SoFi. Yes, those season tickets might be sold, but no, man. I understand what you're saying, and that's not the position that you're taking. We all get that, but they can think that they could sell that. But oh boy, that would be continued evidence that they have no freaking clue how people feel.
Yeah, my fear is they do know how people feel. That's my fear. That my fear is they do know exactly how people feel and are learning every hour of every day right now how people feel. And still don't do anything about it? What does that mean? That means the unthinkable.
Well, were we not going to make payroll next year? That's why. Were we not able to pay Mike Norvell the full freight of $10 million next year? Are we that broke that you were going to have to? Because that money is already committed at a $10 million level to him next year for his salary. Surely we were able to afford that. Yes. So
yeah. Yeah, but what they would argue is that you can't afford the close to 60 you're going to owe him, in addition to having to replace the other staff members and bring in a whole new set of coaches.
Sure. You might not be able to bring in a whole new set of coaches. Maybe that's the middle ground discussion that we should start on.
Yeah, and the argument that you've made all along is that, hey, look, that's fine. Don't bring in any other coaches if we're that desperate and that bad off. Just get this one out of here.
It can't be him. It can't be. That whole thing with the 2026 recruits is a farce. They're not going to stick by, man, because people – it's impossible. This isn't 1974 where kids are like, "Oh, I had no idea." Like,
it's ugly, Tom. It's growing more and more disconcerting every second of the day. I mean, I heard back from a lot of people on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and again this morning, and it's like I began the show. Those voices are getting louder and louder as the week goes on. It's not lessening. They're getting louder because they've had time to ponder. They've had time to consider all of the circumstances and they've played out the scenarios. They've been driving down the road. They're driving down Thomasville Road or whatever city they're in, right? And they're coming to a red light and they love Florida State. It's their school. And they've invested a lot of money in Florida State. They give, they're donors, they're boosters, they're whatever, they're fans. And they're at the red light. And they're like, no, that doesn't make any sense either. Now that I think about it. And they say that to the person who's in the passenger seat or who they're talking to on their Bluetooth, or they say it to themselves in their brain. And then the light turns green and they move along and they get to the store and they pull into the parking lot and they pull into the parking space. And they're like, well, and another thing, how in the world do they think? And then they do it again. And they do it again. And then they're roaming the aisles of their grocery store and they're looking for apples. And they go, son of a bitch. And then they think of another scenario that they just played out. And then they call their friend when they get back in the car. And this goes on and on and on. Then they lay their head on that pillow that night and they go, nope. Now that I think of all of it, there's no way. We can't do this. We can't do this. And that's what they go to bed to. And wake up in the morning, they pour their coffee. They're going to work again. They're like, this is ridiculous. That's the point they've reached. Now it's carrying over.
Yeah. Well, one scenario I just thought in my head, it's very simple. If you don't believe that this structure, this booster head, this athletic director, maybe you believe one or the other, who knows, can raise the money necessary through these trifling times. And
then he's got to go.
Yeah, they got to go. And then you've got to empower somebody that people would be behind and create some way to sell that, be it a transition, be it, I know they've created 87 acronyms of all the things that they can do for the Bound Society.
And who's that person, man?
I got one name and one name only, because you would make him the top of the list and then you would hire people underneath him to handle the finances. And it would be Derek Brooks. I would bring in Derek Brooks and say that he's going to sell that. Unfortunately, we are in a position that we don't want to be in, but we need all of your support. And you have him look in the camera and you have him say it. I don't know anybody else that would be a compelling figure that would also have the credibility from an institutionality standpoint. Maybe Work Done, but Work Done's run charities. Derek Brooks has at least been on a higher level, board of trustees level stuff. You got to have somebody that can ask people for the money from a groundswell standpoint. It's got to be a guerrilla campaign here. It can't be the same old millionaires and billionaires. Is there another figure on the level of Derek Brooks who would be compelling enough to head that particular transition? I don't know, but that's the one person that keeps coming back in my mind. Is he could look in the camera and say, here's where we are, here's the direction of where we need to go, and we need your support. Take a look at this QR code we have on the screen. I don't think Alford can make that pitch. I think Derek Brooks certainly could. I don't even know if he'd want to, but he's been influencing this organization from a lot of different levels, and he's done so in Tampa as well.
Martin Mayhew, who's spent 26 seasons as an executive in the NFL, from Tallahassee, went to Florida State, played at Florida State, was drafted in the 1988 draft, has a Georgetown law degree, undergrad degree from Florida State, has been an executive in the league as a GM, has been very successful in almost everything he's ever done in regards to football. As both a player and an administrator. He's very far removed from being relevant in the minds of many people around here because of his playing days ending in the late 80s. but he is an executive with the background of success and the paperwork to back it up. Maybe.
I think that this is probably the level that somebody should be thinking on over there is, yes, who could execute this vision from not an X's and O's, a dollars and cents standpoint, and then who could be the face of that effort? Because they probably aren't the same person. If you had that person, you probably already would have put in a call.
Yeah.
But you probably need, I hate to say these words, it sounds cringe, a task force of some kind. I'm serious. Like, you really need some sort of task force in order to help make sure that this thing gets funded the way it needs to be funded.
Well, there's a whole nother level to all this, and I want to talk about that here shortly as well. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. In much the same way that we brought on Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports in hour number 1, condensed week, we couldn't let this show's run out and expire without bringing in my mom for her weekly segment and the picks. And I would never forget to bring her on, given the thumping that is taking place here this year. The resounding difference between expertise is on display every Sunday these days. In some cases, Thursdays or Mondays or Saturday mornings or whatever it is the NFL does these days. If you would, Tom, cue it up. We'll bring in Mom, and then we'll get to the standings.
And now for another edition of the Family Pick. Nick.
Go to your room!
Mana, the meatloaf!
Take it away, Jeffrey.
Mama, how are you? Well, I hope.
I'm fine, but I'm telling you, you're right. I am not doing well. I do not know what has happened to me. I have fallen by the wayside. I'm going to have to make a huge comeback to even get close. These games, every game that's close, I seem to lose. And then the ones that are flip a coin, I'm on the wrong side. I just don't know. This has been a crazy year so far.
Well, last week, your undoing was sticking by the Bucs, and your unwavering support for Tampa Bay got you caught up in a bad pick. I didn't like that matchup. I didn't like the timing of the matchup. I didn't like the team we were playing because Detroit is a problem. I think Detroit may be the best team in the NFC, and I didn't like it. And then the other problem is you didn't know when to jump off the Jacksonville train like I did. I jumped train a while back, but you held on for dear life.
I've jumped off now. I'll tell you what, I am not picking them again unless, like I said, unless they play the Jets or somebody like that, then I may pick them. I'm telling you what, I'm very upset with them.
Well, you're now 8 back, Mom, as we interplay today. 8 back. So you have your work cut out for you.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Oh, my Lord. And I don't know if this is going to be the week where I'm going to bounce back either.
Well, let's find out. We've got a game tonight that we have to pick. So this time around, a lot of times we don't do this. We only know after the fact who the other picked, right?
Right.
But this time around, since we're doing this on a Thursday, you get an opportunity. So I say to you, the Vikings are playing the Chargers, 2 mediocre teams going head-to-head.
I know. And, I really like Minnesota, but I'm picking the Chargers.
I am torn on this, but I too will pick the Chargers. And
That's
these are and the Chargers are favored in this game, and I think it's largely because Winston looked very good for Minnesota last week, and the Chargers are starting to get slightly healthier. So, home Thursday night team as well. Okay, so the Dolphins are awful, legitimately awful, and they're on the road against the Falcons.
Yes, I picked Atlanta.
By the way, it should be noted for all the people out there, and Mom, you and I haven't talked about it because we normally talk about the Bucs when we talk about Florida teams. But 2 years ago, Tua was pretty good. Tua had a good year for Miami a couple of seasons ago, to the point where everybody thought, they're going to have to give him the extension. He's awful. Like that. How does a guy go from being pretty damn good to just pitiful?
I don't know. And then he makes dumb statements in press conferences and things and gets everybody mad and all. And I don't understand it either. I don't know. Yeah, they're not any good, and he's terrible. And I don't understand it either.
All right, we both have the Falcons on that note. The Jets are worse than the Dolphins, and they take on
the Jets and the Dolphins.
Yeah, and the
That would be
Jets
a battle of attrition.
And the Jets take on Cincinnati. Who do you have?
I have Cincinnati.
Cleveland's at New England.
Yeah, now that could be a really good game because isn't Joe Flacco now at Cleveland?
You got it reversed. He left Cleveland and went to Cincinnati, Mom.
Oh, he went to Cincinnati. Okay, I knew he was somewhere. Okay, well, anyway, who are they playing again?
It doesn't matter. Cleveland's terrible. Go ahead and pick New England.
Yeah, I picked New England. I did pick New England.
Yes, thank you. By the way, that's the first place, New England Patriots. The Giants are at Philadelphia.
Now, that game, I've told you, I think the Giants are starting to do a lot better. But because it's at Philadelphia, I'm picking Philadelphia.
Well, and the Giants just blew a 26-8 fourth quarter lead.
Well, and then there's that.
Buffalo's at Carolina.
Buffalo.
Give me Carolina at home.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't think that would be one of our differences.
Give me Carolina at home. They are a son of a bitch in Charlotte.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
I'm taking Carolina at Bank of America Stadium. I've been there many times.
You're trying to help me out.
Chicago's at Baltimore.
Yeah, I took Chicago because in Baltimore they don't have a quarterback and their defense let somebody score 40 points last week or the week before.
They're pretty awful. I too will take Chicago at this point.
Yeah.
San Francisco at Houston.
San Francisco.
That'll be a good game, but I took San Francisco as well. The Bucs are at the Saints.
I am taking the Bucs.
Yeah, well, we're both going to take the Bucs, Mom, but be nervous about this game.
I'm always nervous about this game with New Orleans or Atlanta. Both of those games make me very nervous.
Well, even though New Orleans is terrible, we're all banged up again, and Evans is out for the year, and I worry about it.
I do too. But I think we're going to be PO'd because we just did so bad last week and everything, and I think they're going to be riled up. So I'm hoping that we're going to bounce back.
Dallas at Denver.
I'm taking Denver at home.
Me too. Tennessee at Indianapolis.
Indy.
Green Bay at Pittsburgh.
Now, that's a game, right? Because it's Aaron Rodgers' old team, and then now he's at Pittsburgh. Do I have that right?
You do have that right.
Oh, praise the Lord. I took Pittsburgh. I'm not sure why, except I think Aaron's going to try to show up Green Bay. And it's at home, isn't it? Isn't it at Pittsburgh?
Yeah, but home field doesn't matter in the NFL. I'm wrestling with this, but I'm going to take Green Bay, Mom.
Okay. Well, I think that's a coin flip.
You might be on the right side of that coin flip finally.
Well, I hope so. Lord, I hope so.
Monday Night Football is not a good game. Washington is at Kansas City. You're going to take Kansas City.
I am. It could have been, though, if Washington didn't have a lot of injuries. And now, is their quarterback back?
No, I think Jaden Daniels may be out this game. Okay. Yeah, he's out. So, and I wouldn't pick him even if he was there. They're not playing well. But, we can root for a good game, but I don't think it's going to be. All right, so look, this is your week. I feel like, Mom,
to get back to 6 down.
You got to start somewhere.
I know, I do. Maybe this will be my week. Yeah. So you've got Carolina over who? Over Buffalo. Oh, yeah.
So I was waiting for you to find it.
Yeah, I know. I have to find it on my sheet. My trusted sheet. Here it is.
Yeah. The
All
sheet.
right, and Green Bay. You've got Green Bay over Pittsburgh.
I do, and that Carolina pick is bold.
It is. It is bold.
I'll tell you something. If Carolina ends up beating, and I just took a risk. I took a flyer. I don't love Buffalo's situation right now. They haven't beaten anybody who's any good, so we'll see. But if Carolina beats Buffalo, you're gonna lose this year to me by like 20.
I know you get that lucky with that. I know
that's not lucky. That's expertise.
There you go. That's right. That is your job. Well, anyway, I'm excited for you to be able to be watching these games with your brother.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm so excited he's coming, and you guys are going to have a great weekend. So I'm excited. And Bryce's game is tonight, right?
Yeah, Bryce's game is tonight. Yeah.
Why'd they change it?
I don't know, but it's senior night, and now I got to walk the field with him.
Oh, I remember those nights well. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I want to see lots of pictures.
I don't remember. Did you boo-hoo when you walked the field with me?
I did not. I did not boo-hoo. You know why? Because I guess I wasn't thinking about it as being a senior. It was in November, so at least I think it was in November when you did it. And I don't know, it was just a football game, and I wasn't thinking about the end of the year and you graduating or whatever. But no, I was very proud of you. Both times when we walked with Bobby and we walked with you and all that, it was very exciting. Those were fun times.
Love you, Mom. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, love you too. Everybody have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so the two games that are different there. Again, I took Carolina over Buffalo. I'm putting it to the test, Tom. That Carolina team is tough, man. They're not a team you want to have to play in Charlotte. They wear everybody down in Charlotte.
Yeah, I can understand the logic behind that pick. It is trending that way. Carolina is more than plucky, too. They could be a problem. If they win this game also from the Bucs standpoint, you go, okay, man. Because I've been penciling in the two Carolina games as W's the entire year as I'm trying to get to 11, which I think is enough to win the division for sure. 10 might be. But if Carolina wins this game, now I'm thinking, oh, God, we got ourselves a December war because we play them twice in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Well, Carolina has won 3 games in a row to move to 4-3. They're ahead of the Falcons in the standings. They beat the Falcons 30-0. Obviously they're better than the Saints, and they're 3-0 at home. They're 1-3 on the road. They look like an entirely different team when you watch them in Charlotte. It's very annoying.
Yeah, and so we play them on December 21st in Charlotte, and we play them in the final week, January 4th, 2 weeks later at home.
I got to tell you, both those games sound like games you and I should attend.
I was thinking that too, like a little pop-up to Charlotte.
You know how cold it's going to be that night in Charlotte for that game? That'd be fun, man. You break out the big Bucks gear, like the big sweatshirts.
Here's the other part is we won't be a part of it, certainly, but the college football playoff is the 19th and 20th. So we go to a bar in Charlotte and watch some of the playoff games the night before.
Yeah, I'm in. We may want to think about it. The problem is, as it stands right now, I don't think we win that game in Charlotte.
Probably not. Well, and you never know. We might rally and actually have to cover the Shreveport Bowl, which no doubt will be right around the 20th of December.
I don't have to go cover the Shreveport Bowl.
Well, I'm not going in person, but
no. There will be no covering of the Shreveport Bowl. It's not. When is the Shreve? When does that go down? I don't think that.
Oh my goodness! It's super late this year. It's December 30th. Tuesday,
wow.
December 30th. Yeah.
That used to be the bowl that was played on like December the 3rd.
Yeah. What's the other one? Does the Beef O'Brady's Bowl still exist?
I don't believe so. There aren't too many Beef O'Brady's left, are there?
That's true.
I pass a Beef O'Brady's every once in a while when I'm driving, when I'm off the beaten path to go down south. You know, Tom, when we take 19, there's that Beef O'Brady's in that one place.
On the right, as you're going down.
I note it every time I see it. I go, oh, look, a Beef O'Brady's, because it's like an endangered animal.
It is, but also that property is very spread out. It's unto itself. There's a lot of space around it, and it looks well put together for a Beef O'Brady's.
It's a very inviting Beef O'Brady's. I've wanted to stop there. If I lived in that sorry-ass city in which that Beef O'Brady's resides, I would go there often.
Well, we've got people throughout the state. There's one place I would love a scouting report on, and that's it's just on the other side of the bridge by the nuclear plant. Mm-hmm. Is the place called Castaways on the right, and it looks like it is a problem when you go in there. But I really want to go in there. I see are Harleys outside of it all the time. Like, I want to go to Castaways.
I want to go to Castaways too. And every time I see Castaways, it's weird the way our brains work, Tom. You and I being down from the same area, we think we see the state very similarly. I go by Castaways every time, and I go, we should stop at Castaways. And it's a hellhole.
It is, but I'll tell you what, for whatever reason, hopefully my connection is working with you right now, because it looks like this photo is not loading.
Yeah, it's working.
There's a photo of it. It has wood plank ceilings, buddy. I think we need to go.
Okay, I'll go to Castaways with you, and I'll go to that sorry-ass Beef O'Brady's in that little sorry country town. that we go past all the time. Yeah, we'll do it up. What a tour we'll be on. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. So I'm happy and buoyed by the fact that you see my logic in that Carolina pick. Get this thing to 10, and it's over. It's a wrap. I'm declaring it. You can put an X next to my name as a victorious member of the picks contest. That's how that's going to go. I wonder how many people in my pool are going to take Carolina. We shall see. Also, by the way, on the heels of what you and I just talked about, and I do find this fascinating, we ought to pick like weird games every year moving forward in different cities for you and I to attend, but then incorporate whatever the diviest looking bar, not in like crime-ridden areas necessarily, but areas where you feel like this is a hole in the wall that we have to visit while we're visiting this town to go to this game that we've selected before the season even begins,
Absolutely. That's our scene. Those are our people. That's the atmosphere that we want.
Well, we know, for example, anytime we're in Boston, the one bar we can go back to, that was very scary.
Yeah.
That was a shaky place.
I'll never. Sullivan's Tap House, I think, is what it is, or Sullivan's something.
If it were a tap house, it wouldn't be dangerous. I think it was something just like just straight bar.
Sullivan's.
You're right.
Well, it's called Sullivan's Tap.
See, tap house implies all is welcome. Sullivan's Tap, there's nobody necessarily welcome. This ain't a house.
No, and once I share this, you will recognize it right away. Here it is for the folks that aren't watching. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it was shaky. And by the way, none of those televisions were in HD.
No, they weren't. So apparently somebody's invested in them. But yeah.
None of them were in HD, and the bar itself that we sat at is like, whew, I don't know, buddy. I don't know.
Yeah. I've been to a lot of shaky bars in New York in my time, but none of them felt as dangerous, except for maybe the one where the Departed was filmed. The one I went to in Sunset Park. So I got off the ferry boat, that one stop you make between Rockaway and Lower.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk 15 minutes into Brooklyn, you will go to this bar. I forget the name of it now, but this is where it's in Boston, in air quotes, in The Departed, and all the scenes, the pool table with the cast.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Down, I've got this gnawing rat. All happens in this bar in Brooklyn in Sunset Park. And the walk to that place from the pier, I was not familiar with Brooklyn's game for that walk. It was a little shaky.
So for the entirety of that 15-minute walk, you're like, this is a bad idea.
Yes, it was St. Patrick's Day, so it was a little bit more festive to go to this particular bar that I still can't think of the name of. But yep.
I would guess famously all of those shots from the film are up on the walls.
Oh, 100%. And the pool table is there. They had a full spread of food on the pool table in that back room. When you walk in there, you can see it. Sometimes you go to places that things were filmed at and you don't feel what the movie was telling you. It doesn't feel like the same place. You go, really? They shot that here? You walk into that bar, you're like, oh yeah, this is 100% from Departed. 100%.
It's funny when we were talking about the picks, and I was talking about how Carolina is tough at home and they're undefeated at home. And every time they're at home, I feel like, they're going to win. They're going to win. But I was kind of laughing to myself thinking that for as much as I have disliked Carolina over the years, for whatever reason, they've always just kind of bothered me. I think it was because they were good when we were good, and they would physically dominate us. That's the part I hated. They would physically dominate us. They had running backs that would run you over. They had big defensive tackles. It was very impressive the way that they were built in those years that they were good. And it was just a bad matchup for us over and over again. And poor Rondé Barber, if he never sees the Carolina Panthers again, he'll be happy. He got run over by a plethora of running backs for Carolina over the years, many, many times. I mean, just absolutely hammered. Like you'd watch the play and go, oh no, this man has a family. Why are we doing this again?
Deshaun Foster, one of them. I'm sure Stephen Davis was.
Well, Stephen Davis was. Deshaun Foster was. There was another dude who was thick-legged and short and just monstrous. I'm like, man, why are we tackling? I hated it for him. It made me uncomfortable anytime I'd see them take the field. I'm like, that's a problem. You got to tackle that dude. His legs are the size of redwoods.
Well, this was something that happened in the heyday of our defense, and I would stretch that into the mid-2000s because the defense was still pretty good after the Super Bowl. If you had a team with two backs, a scat back and a bruiser,
you could bludgeon us too.
Yes, but sometimes the coaches would use the scat back. You're like, you fools. Like, for example, when we played Atlanta, if they used Warwick Dunn instead of TJ Duckett, you knew you were going to win that day. But if TJ drew the start and he had 4 carries in the first drive, you're like, oh, boy, this is going to be because that was the one thing that Red Tide defense of the Tampa's early 2000s it was a kryptonite for, which was a bruising running back and total commitment from that coaching staff to just between the tackles over and over and over again.
And then you'd watch coaches commit coaching malpractice because they would somehow pull a Dabo Sweeney in the red zone and decide to throw the ball or go away from the successful run game of Cedric Benson, who's running right over us over and over and over again. Any number of teams, Cincinnati did it. We've seen Cleveland do it one year. They had bruising running backs that are running right down our throat. And then they're like, oh, let's throw it down here at the 10. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that game against Cincinnati, it was 15 years ago this month because the night before we had beaten Miami on the road in 2010. Chris Thompson's late touchdown and Jermaine Thomas 2 touchdowns early. It was that next day. I stayed in Tampa to watch the game, and Benson had maybe $120 on his first 10 carries. It was something absurd like that. And then they stopped running the football, and we won. Sabby Piscatelli had a big play. Terrible. Yeah.
You found the game.
Yep. That's the game.
But poor Savvy Piscatelli was on the wrong end of one of the great truckings in NFL history.
Well, I'll tie a bow to it because I was talking about the bar from the departed Irish Haven. Savvy Piscatelli looked like the equivalent of what this bar looks like, which is, I don't know, man, as a safety. And here it is. That's the bar.
That's a beautiful place.
But it's something. Yep.
Look at that place. So, wasn't Savvy Piscatelli on the wrong end of the Steelers stiff arm?
No, that was his name's not Cody, but it was something like that.
We were at Bumpus.
We were Steelers stiff arm Bucks Monday night football. It was Monday night, right?
I don't remember.
It was a primetime game.
I just remember it feeling so bad for whoever was on the wrong end of that because it was so hideous.
Conti. I was close. Chris Conti.
Chris Conti, you poor bastard.
And the player that did it was Vance McDonald.
And he should have that playing in his house on a loop when you go in. It should be on the back wall of every room you walk into.
This is where I love Google and I love technology. My Google search was Steelers stiff arm Bucks Monday Night Football. It's like, oh, well, that would be Vance McDonald.
And
Chris
poor Chris Conti on the wrong end of an ass beating. Yes, that's it was so violent and mean. I was just like, oh, he has no respect for you, Chris Conti. Goodness gracious. Final hour, fourth coming. Stay with Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.